What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Mike, and today we're going to talk about my 1991 Acura NSX. Now, for those of you that know me, that follow my channel or know me personally, you know that primarily my collection revolves around American cars, mostly American muscle. I'd say about 90 to 95% of my collection is really American made. But there are a few exceptions, and this car is definitely one of them. Now, I personally have never owned a JDM car before this one. This is my very first car, and oh, what a car to start with, I guess. Let's just go back a little bit. I can actually remember when these cars were manufactured, were coming off the showroom floor, and even then, before I was the car nerd that I am now, I thought these cars were really cool. The performance specs really impressed me. For the day, they were very impressive. Mid-engine design, the looks, the design, I was really impressed with these cars, and I would notice them when they were driving down the road. But I never really thought that I wanted one. I never longed for it or pined after it. So this really is not a bucket list car for me. So you might ask, well, why is it then that I own one? A buddy of mine actually bought one, and he sent me a picture and said, hey, here's my new toy. And I started looking at it. That kind of got me on a kick, so I started doing a little bit of research and of course watching YouTube videos and reading up about the cars. And I'm the type of person that once I latch onto something, 90% of the time I'm not going to let it go until it's done, until I have it. If there's a vehicle that I want out there, I pretty much will see it through till the end, and if I don't do it right now, probably in the future I will. So that's what happened with this car. And I had found a few vehicles that I was interested in. As a matter of fact, I found one that I was really close to buying. I almost bought it, and thank God I didn't. Some of you that watch the channel are going to know this story, so you can skip ahead, but those of you that don't know the story, stick with me. It's actually a pretty good story. So I found a 1991 black Acura NSX in Rancho Cordova, which is about an hour and a half from here. It was at a dealership, it was on consignment, and it was supercharged, super clean, had a few more miles on it than this car, but very clean car. So I'd never driven one, I'd never ridden in one. I wanted to go up and check it out, and I was serious about buying it. I figured if I liked it and I made the deal that I wanted to make, I would probably go ahead and buy the car. So I went up and I looked at it, checked it out, and I asked the salesman if I could drive it. He said that unless I was willing to go the full sticker, full asking price on the car, he couldn't let me drive it because apparently the seller had a potential buyer that was looking at trying to do some financing for this car, and so it looked like that was kind of a done deal. But the salesman did tell me that he would take my name, my information, and if something fell through, that he'd give me a call. Well, lo and behold, I took off, and about 15 minutes down the road, I get a call from the salesman, and he says, hey, it doesn't look like the financing is going to work out. What's your number? What can we do? So I told him what my number was, and I think they were asking something like $62,000 for the car, and I said I'd be like at 60 all in, all the fees and everything like that. So salesman says, okay, let me do some number crunching, let me see what I can do, and I'll get back to you. So I just go on home, I don't think too much about it. A little bit later, I hear from the salesman saying, hey, basically the seller wants to hang out and see if this other guy can get some other financing and make it work out because it is, a couple $1,000s or whatever it's going to be, and he wants to make as much as he can off the car, which I completely understand. So I just kind of forgot about it and left it alone from there. So it just so happens that the very next day, me and my buddy Josh were heading up in my DeLorean up to Rancho Cordova again. There was a DeLorean Tech Day going on, so I wanted to take my car. So I was already going to be up there. And after I got up there, I got out of the car, checked my phone, and I had like a missed phone call, voicemail, a couple of texts from the salesman saying, hey, guy just wants to sell it today. If you can come through today, he'll sell it to you. He'll take your offer. We'll make it all work out and everything like that. I say, hey, great, works out perfectly. I'm already up here. I've got another driver to drive the extra vehicle home. Outstanding, be over in a little bit. So they say, great, we're gonna go ahead, take the car over. We're gonna get it smogged for you, get it all ready. You come, you drive it, you like it. Go get the money and it's yours. So outstanding. So time goes by, hanging out at the tech day, and I get a phone call from the salesperson, and he says, a little bit of a problem. We're having a problem smogging the vehicle. Don't worry, we'll get it smogged, get it taken care of, but it's just one of those things after the car sitting for so long, because apparently it was on non-op for 13 years, which was news to me. I just found that out at that point, but I'm like, okay, no problem. You guys figure it out, you let me know. So finish up at the tech day, and Josh and I go have lunch, and it's like, hey, you know what, we're close by to this place. Let's go over and check out the other cars they have, because they did have a lot of really cool cars for sale, and just see what's going on, that type of thing. So we go over, and salesman comes up to me and says, hey, The good news is got everything figured out. The car's going to smog. Everything's good. Bad news is that taking it back to get it smogged, the brakes failed and the car went into a pole. It's totaled. So, you know, initially I was a little bummed. Then I started thinking about it, going, well, it was a blessing in disguise, because if I would have bought the car, that would have happened maybe when I was on the test drive, or even after I bought the car, I was heading home. So kind of dodged a bullet on that. Kind of made me a little skeptical about this place, because I'm thinking to myself, if you're going to sell a vehicle, shouldn't you run it through like an inspection to make sure everything is okay, especially something important as brakes? But you know, it is what it is. It's fine. The salesman told me he's probably going to have another one that was going to be supercharged. It's going to be coming into their dealership here pretty soon. He'd keep me in mind, and he did contact me about, I don't know, maybe a month ago, but of course I had already bought this car. Now, this is a car that I had already seen online for sale when I was looking at the black one. I like the black one a little bit better because of the supercharger, but in retrospect, I definitely dodged a bullet there. Now, this particular car, it is a 91. It is naturally aspirated, nothing done to it. The only thing that's been done to it, it's got exhaust, and it's got some aftermarket wheels, but I do have the stock exhaust, and I do have the stock wheels. This particular car has a little over 55,000 original miles on it. I bought it off an ex-Marine. The guy had owned it for about 10 years. It was his baby. He took really good care of it, and he just got to the point where he really he couldn't push the clutch in anymore. He was having problems with his knees, and to drive it on a regular basis just wasn't working out, so he decided to sell it. As a matter of fact, when I decided to call on this car and get information on it, he was in the hospital at the time, and lo and behold, he called me back from the hospital. We talked a little bit, so I ended up going up and checking out the car. This car too was in Sacramento, so right up in the area of Rancho Cordova. I ended up going up and checking the car out. His wife showed it to me. I was able to start the car, but I wasn't able to actually drive it. I liked the car enough that I said, hey, I'd like to come back again and actually drive it, check it out, and maybe make an offer. So about 4 or 5 days later, the guy that owned the car, he was out of the hospital and feeling better. We made that happen, and he was actually asking $50,000 for the car. I made him offer $45,000, and guy's an ex-Marine, so true ex-Marine fashion. He didn't bat an eye, he didn't flinch. He basically just said, no, I think I'm going to hold it 50. So we talked a little bit more, and I said, you know, I would come up to 48 if you would meet me at 48. And he's like, nah, I think I'm going to hold it 50. So, okay, and there again, I drive away thinking, okay, I didn't buy the car. I'll go ahead and keep looking. There's going to be something else out there. And sure enough, I just about get home. He sends me a text and says, how about you meet me at 49? So I mulled it over a little bit and decided, you know, what the heck, it's a clean car. I like it. Why not? So I went on ahead and said, yeah, let's do it. Ended up going back up there again, and lo and behold, finally ended up with a car. Now, these cars are super cool, and in my opinion, still very relevant. To me, this does not look like a 28-year-old car. If I didn't know, and if someone told me this is like a 2010, I would believe them. The design of it, the way it sits, especially with the wheels. I think with the stock wheels, it does show its age a little bit more, but with aftermarket wheels, these cars look great. The wing on the back, like I said, it is a mid-engine design, so the engine is actually under here, which I'll pop that open in just a second and show you guys. It does have a usable trunk, and that's what was so impressive about these cars, is basically back in 1991 when this rolled out, you could buy a supercar with supercar performance that handled and performed the way a supercar should, but you could daily drive the car if you wanted to. I mean, it was that practical. I mean, after all, it is an Acura engine, which is a Honda engine, and they're good for 200,000 miles fairly easily. So people were using these as daily drivers, and you still had a decent sized trunk back here that if you want to go on the way on the weekends, and you and your significant other wanted to take a couple nights, change of clothes or whatever, you could do that. It was still reasonably practical. The car is powered by a 3-liter V6, developing 270 horsepower, 210 pound-feet of torque, which by today's standards sounds anemic. And quite honestly, I can understand that. But truthfully, and you'll see when we get it out on the road, this car actually performs pretty respectably. The car is capable of 0 to 60 in just under 6 seconds, which for 1991 was very impressive. There wasn't a lot that was really going to contend with it. It's got a top speed of 160 miles an hour, which again in 91 was very impressive. And really the big thing was the handling. Being a mid-engine car, it's very well balanced and it holds the road great. It rides great, it handles great. It's really truly an impressive car. I think the only place where this car kind of shows its age is on the interior. Well, the interior looks good and it is really in good shape for its age. If you look at the gauges, well, you guys can see that, and of course the stereo, kind of the setup, it really is very 90s looking. I think that's the only thing that kind of dates this car. Now, as I said, this is a mid-engine car, and this is the way you get to the engine right here. So 3-liter V6, haven't had to do anything to it yet. I suspect it's probably going to be a little bit of an adventure to get in and work on and get around, but really a very well balanced design. And the nice thing is you still have a trunk. And speaking of the trunk, there you go. Now, as I said, this is my first JDM vehicle and really a great vehicle to start out with. I haven't done, as with all my vehicles, I haven't put a lot of miles on this car. Haven't done a lot of driving with it. Definitely haven't been able to do some spirited driving, or really the type of driving that this car is known for, which is up in the hills. But I think it would be a really fun car to take, maybe over to Monterey or go up into the foothills or into the mountains or what have you, and really run it through some corners and have a good time with it, which I do plan to do at some point in time. Right now, the only driving I've really done with it is, of course, home from Sacramento. I've taken it to a couple of cars and coffees and just kind of around here, which is what we're going to do right now. Now, I did talk a little bit about like the power and everything like that. And like I said, 270 horsepower is not a lot. And there is kind of one little flaw about this car that I think Acura could have done a little bit better. Would have made it a better performing car, would have cut the 0 to 60 time down quite a bit, and would have cut the quarter-mile time down. And we're going to talk about that once we get it on the road. So let's do that right now. So the car is very nice to drive. It's very enjoyable, pretty comfortable and quiet inside. Cruises at freeway speeds very comfortably. It shifts good. It brakes good for the time period. By today's standards, it could probably use a little bit of an upgrade there. But overall, it's just a really great car. Now, the one area that I did talk about that really I think that Acura could have improved upon is that the gap between first and second gear is very wide. And this car makes its peak power right around 6,500 RPM. And part of the problem is when you get into this car and you run it through the gears, you can take it up to its 8,000 red line in first gear, shift it into second, and it just really struggles to get back into what they call VTEC. And I've got a car in front of me here I'd show you, but we'll get it out and we'll show you what I mean in just a second. A lot of people, I guess, end up going with a lower overall gearing on these cars. I guess that improves it. I like the overall final drive once I get into fifth gear. It's a really great cruising car. So I don't really know that I want to mess with that. I just think that the transmission could have been tightened up and the gear ratios on the transmission could have been tweaked a little bit more. I know later on, several years later, they went to a 3.2 liter V6, gave it a little bit more power, and they also gave it a 6-speed manual transmission, which I'm sure helped. But other than that, I have really no complaints about this car. And like I said, I'll show you in a second once I can get it out, get a little bit of road in front of me. The car performs very respectably for the numbers that it has. And when I got this car, everything was working the way it should, with the exception of the power mirror on the passenger side. That doesn't seem to want to be working, which is not a big deal because pretty much that's like set it once and forget it. And then the air conditioning was not blowing cold. So I went down and I had the air conditioning charged. Turns out that the air conditioning is leaking through the compressor. So I'm going to have to replace the compressor next year. But other than that, it seems to be working. Everything else seems to be working great. Okay, so it looks like I got a little road in front of me. I can step into this and I can show you guys what I mean about the first and second thing. Impressively. That was probably about the fastest I've ever had it up to, and it was pulling very nicely, very nicely. So it's good for spirited driving. You'll have a good time. If you're considering buying one of these cars, you will definitely have a good time with it. It does not disappoint, and I can only imagine if you did a little forced induction like a supercharger and add another 80 or so rear wheel horsepower, you would really have a very impressive, you'd have a very respectable car that would hold its own even by today's standards. But this car really, it's a lot of fun to drive. Like right now we're cruising along at 60, tacking about 2200 RPM, and it's just very nice. cruise control, like I said, air conditioning, really all the stuff I need, power windows, power seats. It's a nice car, and I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would. And I thought I was going to enjoy it quite a bit, but I'm glad I bought this car. It's not a forever car, I know that. I know that I'll end up selling it and sending it down the road eventually, but as with the other ones, I'm going to enjoy it for a little while. I'm going to have some fun with this car and just really enjoy. Yeah, I'm going to enjoy. So with that, I'm going to end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, my P.O. Box, Venmo, and Instagram will be in the description below. God bless. Take care. Have an absolutely amazing day. The car is powered by a V. Okay, I'm gonna get this.